there. I was going to make you a tutorial addressing a few frequently asked questions. So the first one is how to control your edges, and that basically means that you don't want your blanket to widen, that you want to keep a nice square rectangular shape to it, and you have to control the tension between your loops and your loop size in order to do that. And so I'm going to show you what I do to stay consistent with my edges. So this blanket, I started with the dragon hoop chain. I have that tutorial in my tutorials album on my page. And in order to get my edges to look like the start chain, I do the skip the loop method. And I'm going to show you how to close, the closing technique that I use to make all my edges of my blanket consistently looking like this. So, as far as loop size and tension between loops, I am knitting this blanket. I use the 2-finger technique. I like the size of the holes in the blanket. You can't see them unless you really look for them. And the blanket is not too heavy. If you do 1 finger, the blanket becomes very thick and heavy, almost like a weighted blanket. And if you do 3 fingers, then you're going to see bigger holes visibly without having to look for them. And so I prefer the 2-finger method. And then I keep all of my loops that same exact size. Okay? So that's one part of it. Getting this consistent edge that will look like your dragon hump start chain, you have to skip the first loop of each row. What that looks like is I'm knitting here to the last loop. So here's the last loop. I'm creating that chain, see? But I come around to start my next row, come around that first loop, and then knit loop 2. Okay, skipping this one. That one will be pulled into the blanket when I get back to it as the last loop of my next row after this. And so it does get knitted. Don't leave it down there. But you don't knit it as the first loop. You only knit it as the last loop. So that's another part of it. And you're going to get that side that looks like that. So now, as far as the tension between loops, this is important. And I've actually just named this the kiss and knit. And that's just my name for it. It's what goes through my head when I am making blankets, to make sure that I don't have any extra slack between the loops there. And the way to do that is I've knitted this one, right? So knit and kiss. So I kiss the next one to the one I just knitted, and then I knit that one so that they're right next to each other and there's no tension, there's no slack in between. They're right next to each other. Because what can happen is if your yarn is a little bit loose here in the back, and you pull it up and you knit, you could end up with some slack like this, right? And even if it's just a little bit, that adds up, and what it eventually does is it gives more space in between your loops, and then your blanket ends up going like this over time. And you don't want that to happen. And so you have to do the kiss and knit. That's just how I think of it in my head. So I've knitted this one, pull this next one that I'm going to knit, have them touching, and always pulling that yarn taut behind and then knit. So they're right next to each other and the same size. Always the two, for me, always the 2 fingers. And if you do that, kiss, knit, kiss, knit, making sure no slack. You'll get consistency with your edges, okay? And then when you reach the end of your blanket, to get that last edge to look like your other 3, I would use the technique where, so you're gonna knit a loop, you're gonna knit the one next to it, and then you're gonna push the second loop that you knitted into the first one and pull up the loop. Then you're going to knit another one right next to it, push the one you just knitted into the existing loop, knit a new one, push the new one into the existing one, and you're gonna get this type of close at the top of your blanket, which looks like all your edges. So I hope this helps for consistency with loops, edges, and tension. Happy knitting!